is episode number 2, and my name is Jimmy. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, and I want to say thank you so much for coming back or for checking this out. I'm really touched by the response I got from my first episode, which came out a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really thankful, and I really love all the messages and the kind words and the encouragement I've received. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming back. And today is December 28th, and Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, and Happy New Year. 2018 is upon us. So again, like I said, my name is Jimmy. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can follow me there as JohnBoyNY, and you can also follow me or friend me or whatever it is that one does at Ravelry with the same handle, just JohnBoyNY, and you can send me messages there or on Instagram or whatever. Today I'm going to be showing you some finished objects that I have, a couple of works in progress, and I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about the spinning I've done, because some people asked me about it, so I thought I would share some of the spinning that I've done and some of the tools I use and stuff like that. So let's get started. Finished objects. What do we have for finished objects? I finished the pair of socks that I was showing you last time. The name of the pattern is Mustard Seeds by Kieron Pegg, I believe it's his name, and I finished them. So here they are. And yes, I did. It's two. I finished them both. These I gave to my roommate for Christmas, but I asked him if I could borrow them so I could do this. But they're his. They fit him well, so I'm happy about that. Let's see, I did let's see, you can see the stitch pattern. The yarn was terrible for this pattern because you cannot really see. That's kind of blowing out a little bit. You cannot really see the stitches very well. The colors hide the stitch pattern, which is actually very nice. But anyway, I'll tell you what I did. I cast on 72 stitches on a US 2 needle, ChiaoGoo. I did them in magic loop, which is kind of how I usually do when I do socks. I don't do socks that much, but that's what I usually do. I'm not a huge fan of DPNs because I feel like it's slower, but yeah, but I still I need to learn. I still get a little bit of laddering, so, but anyway, so I did 72 stitches. I did a 2x2 ribbing, about 20 stitches, which is about 2 inches, and then I knit the leg. I think it's about 80 rows that I did in the leg, maybe 72. And then I did heel flap and gusset. And I usually do this a little longer because the bridge is kind of high. But anyway, the yarn is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering, and they're Sunny Afternoon colorway. I'm not sure you can see that, but I think it's not clear at all. Sorry. But anyway, Sunny Afternoon, hand painted. So they fit, they seem to be comfortable, and I'm glad I got them done. So that was that. What else did I finish? I finished also a blanket for my roommate. Well, for his doggy. His name is Rocky. And this is done with Tunisian crochet. And here it is. It's about 3 feet long by like 2 feet wide. I chained about 110 chains long, and then I did about 12 rows for each color, or passes, no, rows, 12 rows for each color. And then when I got to the section with the cross stitch for his name, I did double. I did 24 rows because that needed more space, so I did 24 rows of that, and then I went back to 12 rows for each color. And then I finished it with a little bit of a fringe for the edges. And I'm happy the way it turned out. I think it's nice. The pattern is a free pattern by Staci Perry from Very Pink Knits. I think it's called Tunisian Stripes Blanket, I believe. But you can go to her website, or you can go to her Ravelry store, or you can go to her her YouTube channel. She has a tutorial on how to do the Tunisian stitch, and how to do the cross stitching, and all sorts of good stuff. So yes, that's the second project. And then this, what I'm wearing. By the way, I did not knit this. This is from the Gap, so sorry. This is machine knit, and I paid for it. Oh well, but this, I finally finished my dotted rays, which is awesome, and it's pretty big, and it's done, and I am very happy the way it turned out. It's about 7 feet long, actually, and it's very nice and cozy. And I like it. It's warm, but not too warm, and it's pretty cold here today. and I don't have my heater on because I don't want it to be making noise while I'm recording this, so I'm even colder. So, but anyway, let's see. I'll talk a little bit about what I did with this because I already put it back on. I'm cold. See, the pattern is actually very easy. It's a lot of fun. The pattern is by Stephen West, and it is just garter stitch, short rows, garter stitch, and instead of hiding the short rows, you accentuate them with little eyelets, and it's a lot of fun. You knit an I-cord border as you're going, and then you bind off with an I-cord bind off as well. So I like it. I like it. It took me about 6 months to do because it's lace weight and it takes a while to knit, and I kept picking it up and then putting it down and picking it up and putting it down, because since it is for me, I wanted to do things for other people, and this just kind of fell to the wayside a lot of times. But now I'm happy it's done. The yarns that I used are a Malabrigo, baby Silkpaca lace, which is 70% alpaca, 30% silk, I believe, and the colors are black, Indiecita, and the border colors are pearl. And yeah, so it's done. The only issue I had with this yarn was that the black, the dye, because of the saturation, I guess, of the way they dye them, the dye didn't really get. There was too much dye in it, and kind of came off in my hands sometimes when I was knitting it. So a lot of times my hand was black after knitting the dye section, the black section, but you wash it off and it's not a big deal. And I think that's my only criticism. But black is difficult to dye, so you kind of expect some saturation to come with it. And yeah, that's what I had been working on last time that I showed you, and now it's done. And something that I made in between podcasts was a hat that I made. I think it's called Precocious, Briocheous. I'm not sure. I'll put the name down in the bottom of the screen. But here it is. It's a little silly. It's a bit of a silly hat, but that's okay. I wanted I'm gonna look really silly with it, with my little horns, and I'm fine with it. I wanted a hat to that would be really nice and cozy and warm for when I go to, believe it or not, when I go to the gym, and I leave and my hair is a lot of times wet, and it's very cold out, and I wanted to cover my my head with something, but I don't want it to be my regular hat, because if I get sweaty, I don't need to get graphic, but I'm sure you understand. And So yeah, I like it. It's a little silly, but hey, it's fun. And let's see. You knit it sideways. You start from one end, which of course, I did because that's me. I changed a little bit of the pattern. I added this I-cord cast on, which the pattern doesn't say, but I wanted it. I wanted an I-cord, and so I put an I-cord. I cast on a few more stitches than the pattern suggests because I have a big head, and I thought that that would be good. But I think it's exaggerated. I think it's a little big actually. So yeah, and then you knit, brioche 2 colors, right? That's the inside. You knit, and then you decrease, and you keep knitting, and then you change colors for a little band at the end, and then you join. So what I did, let's see, the colors that I used, these are Malabrigo yarns, and this is Brooklyn Tweed, this black section. The Malabrigo yarns, because I don't follow rules, I suppose, as usual. I don't follow rules, so I used different bases for all the yarns. I used different bases. The pattern is written for worsted weight, and I used Malabrigo twist. Let's see if you can. It's too glary. Yeah, Malabrigo twist, which is kind of like an errant weight, and that's for the variegated yarn, the with the purples and blues and stuff. And the colorway is called Plena, and so that's a little bit heavier. It's merino, baby merino, but it's a little bit heavier than regular worsted. And then for the yellow bit, right, I used Malabrigo worsted, and in the colorway Cadmium, and that one is a little bit lighter than the other one. And also worsted is a single, and the twist is a twisty yarn. So they're actually different weights and different structure of yarn. And then for this bit I used Brooklyn Tweed, but Arbor, which is a DK weight. So yeah, so different weights, different sizes, different structures of yarn, and I'm sure some of you are saying, "Ooh, bad boy," but yeah, I'm like that. I don't follow rules when it comes to knitting, at least, right? So yeah, silly hat for the winter to keep my head nice and cozy and toasty. Yes, so happy. And the needles that I used, let's see if I can. I just did this and I can't remember. Wow. I used size 8 for the I-cord cast on, so that it would be a little bit more stretchy. And then I went down to US 7 for the brioche section. So that it would be a little tighter. And then when I got to this section, I went up to size US 9 because it was DK and I wanted to make sure that it would be really, really stretchy enough that I could keep up with the other fabric. So yes. That's what I did. Silly hat. But it's fun. I like it. I'll take it off because I look really silly. But it's kind of chilly in here. I want to keep it on. But anyway. So yes. The next project is a work in progress. Last time I showed you the yarns that I got from Connie from Chili Knits, and I told you I was going to start an exploration station with her yarns, a Stephen West pattern. And so a couple of days ago, that's what I did. I cast it on. And so I've been working on this for maybe 2.5 days. And this is what I have so far. Exploration station on its way. I think it's kind of fun. Let's see if I remember the colors. I'm using 4 colors. 3 are from Connie Chili Knits, and 1 is a Malabrigo Mechita. This one, the dark one with speckles, is Midnight Stroll by Connie Chili Knits. This one is the Malabrigo Pegaso. This one is again Chili Knits Appletini, and this one is also Chili Knits Tea Time. And again, I'm mixing bases and I am mixing structure of the yarn. The Chili Knits is in her cuddly sock base, which is I believe 85 merino, 15 nylon, and it has a twist. And the Malabrigo Mechita is 100% merino, no nylon, and it's a single. It's not plied. It's a single yarn. So mixing and matching, that's what I do. I know, bad. Yeah, but I don't mind. It's not something that concerns me. Let's see. So far, very easy. Just like the dotted rays. Short rows. Short rows back and forth, and you don't close the gaps, you exaggerate them and you make eyelets out of them. So because I did this one has been very easy to follow. I'm almost done with this section. I need to finish this last wedge in tea time, and then I will start the brioche section, which will be in this color, the blue Pegaso, and this color, the Appletini. So we'll see. I'm using Nearest Pride, which I love. US 6. That's what the pattern calls for, and that's what I'm using. I'm sure mine is going to be a little bigger because I'm a loser knitter, I think. So we'll see. I did not swatch or anything because it's a shawl, so so it's okay. It's okay, and I love it. I'll show you next time. Hopefully, I want to have this finished by Vogue Knitting Live, which is in a couple of weeks. So we'll see. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. And then the other work in progress that I have, that I just started last night, and I'm casting on, and you're going to be like, what is that? What is that? I am making a really, really wide scarf. It's like a scarf blanket. And this is going to be the I-cord cast on. And then just starting with that. It's going to, I'm not following a pattern. I'm just going to make it as I go. I'm going to do honeycomb brioche on this, and it's going to be for my roommate. I'm using Brooklyn Tweed veil, and these are the two colors. I forget the names of the colors, but I will put them in the bottom of the screen. And these are going to be the two colors. And I'm using US 5s. These are US 7s, sorry, US 7s, and for the cast on, because I want it to be a little stretchy, and then I'm going to switch back to US 5s for the body of the scarf. So, yep. I excuse me. Something funny happened with my voice. I made my roommate, a scarf that I'm going to replicate, basically. Not exactly, but I'm gonna sort of. But I made a mistake, and I want to show you, because I guess it's good to know, right, for things. This is what I'm talking about by honeycomb brioche, right? And this is what I'm going to try to do again. The mistake I made, this took me, again, like 8 months to make. So I don't know how long that one is going to take me. The mistake I made was that I used the same type of yarn as I used for this shawl. Baby Silkpaca by Malabrigo. And this is a very loose weave in the fabric, so it's very drapey, which is fine, which is what my roommate wanted. But the yarn is very slippery, so these things, if they get caught in something, the yarn will pull really far because it'll just slide, right? Alpaca really has no grip, and neither does, well, silk has a little bit, but it, this is mostly alpaca, so it just slides. The stitches slide, and they don't. The tension looks weird, and so I'm going to make this again, but using different material. So I'm going to use this Brooklyn Tweed, which is wool. It's not alpaca. This is wool. This is Rambouillet, I believe. Yes, I think it's Rambouillet, and it's very springy, and I love it. So hopefully it's not going to be so sliding all over the place as this one is. So yes, so this is honeycomb brioche. This is the back. That's what the back looks like. So took a lot of effort, and it's very nice and warm, but it doesn't look as nice as I had hoped it would because I used the wrong types of yarn. So lesson learned, right? And let's see, that's it for the knitting content. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about spinning. I've been spinning since July, so about 4-5 months maybe. And I took a class at Woolen here in Brooklyn, and I fell in love with it. It's so much fun. I love it. And I want to do it as much as I want to knit. I want to show you some of the stuff that I've done. Let's see. This is the first skein of yarn that I spun using a drop spindle. It's Polworth. Yeah, it's Polworth from Frabue Fibers. I'm not sure how to say that. Frabue Fibers. The colorway is Summit, 125 Summit. And this was a lot of fun to spin. And I fell in love with it so much that after I did this, I went and bought a wheel. And the person that sold me the wheel, I bought a secondhand wheel, or at least maybe it might be older. It looks a little old, but the person who sold me the wheel had a whole bunch of mystery wools, that she gave me because she had no use for them. This is one of them. I don't know what this wool is, but it's, I don't know. It doesn't feel like merino. I don't know. I'm not an expert. So that's the wool she gave me, and I started practicing, and I spun that on my wheel, and I made this, and then I decided to experiment with dyeing, and I used food coloring and vinegar, and I dyed that, which is kind of silly, but it was just fun experiment. So yeah, I don't know, again, I don't know what kind of wool this is. I'm not gonna use it for any projects or anything because I think I might have felted it a little bit, or, and the wool was difficult to work with, actually. So maybe the top was felted a little bit already, because it was, I had a hard time drafting it, but yeah. And then I practiced some more on my wheel, and these she had, I guess she bought them dyed or whatever, and so these are, again, mystery wools. And then I bought some Once Upon a Corgi from Gabi, and I died, and I died. Oh, I didn't die. I spun this on my wheel, and this, I believe this colorway is oh, I have it here. Once Upon a Corgi. It's My Sun and Stars, and it's also Polworth, which I love. It's so fun to spin. So I'm thinking this is heavy fingering to heavy DK. I'm not that's 2 ounces, and then I have the other 2 ounces from that roving I did on my drop spindle that I bought from Scott Snyder on Etsy, I believe is his name. And I have some more molds that I need to ply. This is not plied yet. This is just the singles, and I wanted to get them as thin as I could. This is just singles, right? Yeah. So I'm hoping that this is going to be like a fingering weight when I ply it, because I'm going to do 2 plies. And the tools that I use, well, I use my wheel, but my wheel doesn't, I haven't figured out how to do really thin yarns with my wheel. So if I want thin yarns, I still do spindles, and I got that Turkish drop spindle, and I got another one that it's somewhere in there with yarn, And I got some regular drop spindles for plying. I use these guys to ply my yarns. And those are from Snyder on Etsy. I'll put the information down below. And then I saw some videos of Russian spindles, and I was very curious, so I bought these two from Caroline Hershey, I believe is her name, also on Etsy. I'll also put the details down below. And I love these. These have become my favorite. Right? These are supported spindles. You use some kind of a bowl or some kind of a base, and then you spin and spin, and I love that. And actually, in the last video, I think I put a little section where I'm spinning this actually, this yarn, which is Into the World. And so yeah, those are my tools. That's what I use for spinning. I have a lot of spinning projects in my head that I need to get going, so I'm hoping that my apologies, I live in the city and you can hear ambulances all over at this moment, so I hope it's not too distracting. I have several spinning projects that I want to get going for next year, because I want to spin yarn for a shawl, the void shawl that I want to make. So, but once I get to that, I'll show you in the podcast. So yeah, I believe that's all for today. Thank you for coming and sitting with me and knitting with me and keeping me company for a little bit. I hope you have a very wonderful and very healthy 2018, and I will see you next year. Thank you. Bye-bye.